You're listening to the Off the Grid Biz Podcast. I'm Brian Pombo. I'm going to set the scene for you a little bit with this next interview. You see, this all started when I was set to meet one-on-one with Kirsten and Christopher Shockey. This is kind of different because up until this point, I had not done any live interviews with anybody for this podcast. Everything had been done either by phone. We also do it by Zoom, which is a digital communication similar to Skype. And so being one-on-one, I thought I had all my equipment working properly. Sadly, I was wrong. After finishing up, I realized that my microphone was not fully plugged in to my recording device. What we ended up with was subpar audio. The conversation I had with the Shockeys was so interesting, was so revealing, that I found it necessary to get as much out of this audio as possible. What we ended up with is there are some parts of the audio you may not be able to fully understand what the person's saying. So here's what I did to help resolve the problem. We attempted to get the audio to sound as best as we could, and I've added in transcription where you can actually read what everybody's saying. If you would rather read it, go check out the description or go to offthegridbiz.com, and right in the post you can read every word that is spoken in the podcast. With that in mind, I hope you enjoy this great conversation that I had with the Shockeys. If you're someone who refuses to go along to get along, if you question whether the status quo is good enough for you and your family, you want to leave this world better off than you found it, and you consider independence a sacred thing, you may be a prepper, a gardener, a homesteader, a survivalist, a farmer, a rancher, an environmentalist, or a rugged outdoorsman. This show is for those who choose the road less traveled, the road to self-reliance, for those living a daring adventure, life off the grid. Kirsten and Christopher Shockey are the co-authors of best-selling books, Fermented Vegetables, Fiery Ferments, and the new Miso, Tempeh, Natto, and other tasty ferments that came from their desire to both help people eat in new ways, both for the health of themselves and the planet, and push these culinary arts to new flavors. They got their start in fermenting foods 20 years ago on a 40-acre hillside smallholding, which they grew into their organic food company. When Kirsten and Christopher realized their passion was for the process, they chose to focus on teaching fermentation arts to others instead. Today, they travel worldwide, helping people to make, enjoy, and connect with their food. Kirsten and Christopher, welcome to the Off the Grid Biz Podcast.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
So, why don't you just let everyone know a little bit about who you are and what your roles are at Ferment Works?
Yeah, so I'm Kirsten Shockey, and what we're doing now is teaching people to ferment, and most of that is through writing books, but then that takes us all over the place teaching classes. The fun part is fermentation is becoming more and more well known as such an important food for our gut health, and so people are curious, people want to feel better, and that's where we come into the picture.
In the previous incarnation of the business, we made products. So we were an organic food company, and we would take organic produce in the valley here and turn it into fermented vegetables, pickles, sauerkraut, kimchi, things like that. We sold at farmers markets and sold in Grants Pass and Medford and Ashland in that area, and we basically grew to where we serviced this area. And then when we were facing the first Whole Foods order that was as big as everything we had produced before, that was the realization that we either grew and became something bigger and moved our facilities and everything else, or we decided to transition into this space, and this is what we've been doing since the book came out in 2014.
Yeah, and part of that was when we were at the market, we realized how interested people were in understanding these foods more than we would have known, and so that was part of the decision.
Very cool. So how'd you end up here? What's your basic life up until this point?
Well, we're old enough. That's a long story.
Yeah. Just give a brief synopsis. I mean, we learned a little bit from your bio.
Yeah. So we met in Arizona Community College way back in the day, back in the 80s, for those of you that maybe don't remember. It was as crazy as it looks in the pictures. My first career was at Hewlett-Packard. So we lived in Boise. Then we moved to Corvallis, so that's what brought us to Oregon, East Corvallis. In that meantime, we have 4 wonderful kids. So Kirsten homeschooled. She was trained as a school teacher, so she homeschooled the kids. And we got ever progressively larger pieces of property to also manage. So we had an acre in Corvallis, and then we wanted the kids to grow up in a rural setting to know where their food came from. And we looked all over the country, actually. Everything from played-out dairy farms in New York to South Dakota, a place you could get a lot of land for not a lot of money. And was on one of the trips down to California, we came through this valley. And we have friends, the Penningtons, that live in the valley.
Oh, yeah.
And, just fell in love with it. So we found a farm that was, the people had raised 4 kids there, and they had had it on the market for 14 years. And basically they were waiting for a family like that they wanted to take the farm over.
Wow.
So we kind of interviewed for it. Really didn't know it, but it was 110 that day, and so the kids stripped off and played in the creek. And, it was the place we probably should have found. So that was in 1998. And that's what brought us here. And we've been trying to figure out how to make the farm pay for itself ever since.
Mm-hmm.
So we were homesteading, and a lot of that, like Christopher said, was so that the kids could know where their food came from as part of just being rounded individuals. And so we had dairy animals, and that led us to cheese making. Not as a business ever, but that was kind of one of the first ferments that we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
The farm came with a lot of really old, wonderful apple trees. So cider making also became a thing, and then the vegetables sort of started with a Christmas present. My mom gave us a crock with sauerkraut in it, already fermenting, wrapped up under the tree. And, so from there, we realized that fermenting vegetables from the garden was a much better way to preserve them. And back to trying to find a little family business to make the farm, a little bit profitable. That was when we did the small sauerkraut company.
And so you transitioned from having the physical product into basically you're an information business in a sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So you've written a few books. Why don't you tell us a little bit about them?
The first book is Fermented Vegetables, and that's the one that really came out of that whole farmer's market experience. So what we were doing is we were taking seconds and overages and things like that from the local organic farms. I would get called up and, I have 400 pounds of burdock root or parsnips or fill in the blank, can you do something with this? And at the time, there wasn't a lot about vegetable fermentation on the internet. There weren't a lot of recipes. There was nothing that said, yes, parsnips are safe to ferment or not safe. Or this is how they would taste good. And so I just started experimenting, and turns out the science is such that you can't kill yourself with fermented vegetables, and any vegetable will ferment. But at that particular time, I didn't quite have that down yet.
Yeah.
So all that experimentation became, 50 or so varieties in that first year, because we were just working so locally, and just creating recipes from what was available at that moment in time. So that became that first book, and having people come to the farm and learn, and really listening to their questions and what people didn't understand. And so we tried to make it a book that was like somebody coming to the farm, and then also something where anything that came out of their garden or from their CSA basket, they could figure out what to do with it.
Wow.
So the second book was taking that one a little further with condiments and hot sauce.
I went to the Grange and brought too many peppers home, so just fall in love with those little plants. And then, so we had a lot of peppers, and didn't want to dry everything, and so just started experimenting, fermenting, because that's what we knew. And came up with some great hot sauces. The first book is in 5 languages now, I think.
Wow.
And we were just in South America for the Spanish version, teaching people in Buenos Aires and Chile how to ferment. And we were just in Spain teaching the Spanish version. So some cultures like spicy foods and some cultures don't. So
Yeah.
Fiery ferments had where people like things a little bit spicy, they love it. And for other people, it's like the first step into something a little more spicy. But they don't have to be hot to eat that. And then and this latest book is something still fermented, but very different than those first two. So, and this took us 3 years to write. So,
Wow.
Labor of love.
Yeah. There's a lot of topics in there. So
Yeah.
it's fermenting grains and legumes, beans, but they're all very different and rely on different microbes. So, but it's a fun book.
Well, that's great. And those of you who are listening, if you haven't seen these books, they're very thick, full of a lot of colorful pictures, very well produced. I mean, that's just really impressive. What led you to write the first one?
We were lazy. So anyone that has the romantic image of being at the farmer's market and selling things, and you go through and you say, oh, someday I'm going to leave my job and be one of those people with the farmer's market. The reality is that, you know, you're getting up early, you spent the day before putting all that stuff in jars and labeling and touching it about 7 times. And keeping it cold, and when you get to the farmer's market about 7 in the morning, you get set up 9 o'clock, and then all day long people come through, they tell you how good your stuff is, they may or may not buy it, and you take home everything that you haven't sold and you repeat. And it is, I mean, we met so many people, but it is a hard way to make a living. It's hard to, because you end up doing farmers markets four times a week.
Mm-hmm.
You're building product, making product in between. So one was, it was hard to see doing that for a long period of time. We're also bad drug dealers in that people would get addicted to the product and then they wouldn't have the money to pay for a jar. And so we would start passing out recipes to teach people how to do it, because I would say you just need a cabbage and some salt. You can make this yourself. And they'd say, really? I'd say, yeah. And then they'd come back and say, well, it's not as good as yours, but it was really good. And I said, all right. And so I think between those two things, we just had more of a passion for seeing people having success and being happy about eating it than the product, making sure you bought ours versus somebody else's. And so that's what led us into we should just teach people how to do this instead of making it and having them eat it our version of it.
You know, we just feel like the food is empowering, and, you know, making it yourself or making it with friends or whatever is so much more empowering than going out and buying it.
Yeah.
So
how about the bookmaking process, the writing and everything that goes into the production? Do you enjoy all of that?
Yes, we're a little unique in that we're a husband and wife writing team.
We've made it through 3 books and haven't killed each other.
There have been times.
Actually, we're on for 1, we still haven't, so.
Yeah. We have a lot of author friends now. And one of the biggest things is finding a company that's good to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So Story Publishing is who picked us up.
Mm-hmm.
They've been really fabulous to work with. If you have a good editor that, you know, can walk you along the process. And like you said, they're really beautiful. They have really quality photographers that come out and shoot these things, so, you know, it looks very professional. It is very professional. So that helps. The writing process, it's interesting because Kirsten and I are very different in that I'm more of an ideas guy and kind of scattered, and I like to talk about things. I don't necessarily write anything down. And so Kirsten is also a big ideas kind of person, and also she's the one that can put flavors together. And since this is going to go with that, I don't. If you gave me watercolors, I'll always end up with brown. You know, even though I want to paint something pretty, I just add too much, and it ends up always brown. So she's got that flavor palette skill. So between the two of us, we kind of fill in the gaps, don't you think, from the writing? and she keeps me on task. Like I'll say, oh my gosh, I found this piece of research is really great. It explains this. And she says, did you write it down? I say, no, but I also just say, stop, go write it down. I write it down. And it's working. I mean, I enjoy being a author.
Oh, very much. Yeah. I mean, there are days where deadlines are ugly. But.
like today. So this is our second podcast. We just did a demo. We're on a tour, starting a tour for this book. We just got the manuscript back yesterday for the next book. And Kirsten's working on a third book. So
you don't get bored.
The thought of you just kind of are squirreled away, trying to come up with words, it's much more just work ethic. You know, it's just like any other job. You just have multiple projects at the same time.
Well, and I think what's probably changed with writing is, you know, you do have to find other outlets. So physically teaching or teaching online or whatever that is a way to help make the books possible, because you certainly don't make a living on writing books.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I mean, our books sell well, but there's a lot of work just constantly trying to be out there with, you know, just new free content for social media or whatever. Mm-hmm. Just constantly putting that out there, and I think that's probably what's changed a lot for authors. It used to be your royalties and whatever made you the living, and you could scroll away, like Christopher said, but now it's not like that. I think you're constantly just reminding people what you're doing, who you are. Buy a book, take a class.
So where would people go beyond the books with you? You said you have classes that they can get involved with?
We wanted something that people could just start easily right away. So on our website, we've got a 7-day course they can sign up for, which is free. There's no hidden anything in there. And it will start and it will email you each day with, here's what you need to get, here's what we're going to make. And we've got thousands and thousands of people who have done that. And sometimes they bought the book, but they still just needed that very focused. You're going to make sauerkraut tomorrow, so today you're going to go buy a cabbage and some salt. And tomorrow we're going to make it. And then we're going to make lemon kraut or lemon dill. And then we're going to... And we get people all over the world that do that one. And so, like I said, I don't know how many thousand people have completed that. And that's usually like the first start. We usually do a couple of classes on our farm every year. And we have people that come in, you know, either from the West Coast, or we've had people as far away as New Zealand and Europe come to the class. So it's a chance to do an intensive 3-day, just dive in and do all kinds of ferments. And then in the Rogue Valley, we do a lot of libraries and things at Ashland and Medford. We just try to keep doing things for the community. Usually they're free or, you know, minimum cost things, so people can come. Sometimes they just need to see it, experience it. And then we do things around the country in terms of news fair, and workshops, other places that are doing things like that. We do those things too.
Yeah, we'll partner with people to put together a workshop so that, you know, everybody gets paid. And that's, we're working on, you know, some online content, some classes and things like that. But we don't have a date for all that, but we do have a lot of big ideas. So, and hopefully that will help supplement so that we don't have to travel as much. We enjoy the traveling, but, you know, it's still just paying for our time. We need to, you know, find more of those sources of, what's the word, passive income.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're going to pause the conversation right there. What you're listening to right now is a special edition podcast. These episodes all have to do with the Mother Earth News Fair in Albany, Oregon of 2019. At the time I'm recording this, we have learned so much about how to take advantage of events, and I want you to be able to use this information in your own business. Go to brianjpombo.com/secrets. We are going to be putting out helpful materials on how you can use events to grow your business. When you go to this page, you will either see our latest programs, or if you make it there early enough, you will see an email address capture page. Put in your email address, and we will be sure and update you as soon as we get these out there. You're not going to want to miss this. If you get in early enough, you can get a special deal. These are principles that never go away. These programs will be based on the experience of people who have written books, spoken at the events, or exhibited there, talking about how to use events, books, and speaking, all to build your business. That's BrianJPombo.com/SECRETS. BrianJPombo.com/secrets. And now, back to the conversation. It makes a lot of sense. You mentioned the Mother Earth News Fair. For those of you who weren't aware, they're going to be speaking at the Mother Earth News Fair in Albany, Oregon. What are you going to be covering there?
Ferment. We're going to be talking about making condiments, fermentation with condiments. We're going to be talking about gut health. A lot of what we're doing now, it started out really just culinary, preserve your vegetables, you can get some probiotics, your vitamins are going to be increased, and all of that, but the country, since the first book came out 5 years ago, the country's gotten sicker and the science has gotten stronger that our guts are everything. Yeah. And so we do a talk on gut health and kind of pull it all together. We'll be talking about the new book. We'll be making some hands-on miso with folks that sign up for that class.
I'll be teaching hordes of little kids how to make sauerkraut. Yeah. Kirsten will disappear right before that, and then she'll show up at the very end. It's really cool because, part of it's one of the things that people in Mother News can park their kids someplace and go do, right? So the kids have very low expectations of what's going to happen. And when we say, how many of you like pickles? Maybe two kids will raise their hand out of 50. How many like sauerkraut? And there's always like one brave little girl who defiantly raises her hand. Kids will be holding their nose, and then we talk about what it is, and we talk about its microbes, and their job is to eat sugar and fart, and then the kids are like, I'm interested. That's a job, and we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna get to touch our food, and they're like, with our hands, yeah, and we'll have them taste raw cabbage, and I would say 80% of the kids have never tasted raw cabbage. They don't know. And, I believe it. And they taste it, it's like, well, it's sweet. Yeah, that's sugar. That's what the microbes want. There's sugar in vegetables? Yeah. And then they'll taste it, and then we'll make sauerkraut, and we'll say it tastes like a salty chip, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, it tastes like a potato chip. So yeah, kind of. And then they'll put it in a Ziploc bag, and we'll talk about, millions of...
We have them taste it. Mm-hmm. Or we bring already fermented. Yeah. So that they can taste that too.
And then they take a little Ziploc bag home with millions of microbes, they have to take care of. And sauerkraut, and they're looking at the bag and they're just so excited that they've done this, and the parents will come pick them up and they're like, I made sauerkraut, oh my god, these microbes are farting, and you can tell the parents like, what? But at the farmer's market, the thing would just kill us would be, kids would come up and they'd start grazing, on the samples, and they loved it, and the parents would step in and say, oh, you're not going to like that's sauerkraut. And the kids would mid-fork put it down, oh, I didn't like it, but they loved it. And we grew up with sauerkraut coming out of the can, and so we perpetuate those things that we think are bad without letting our kids taste it. We're experiencing something new, and so I think for us, who are kind of dedicating our lives now to this, getting to the kids is really important because you cut out that part about what we as adults think. Just go straight to them, and they typically love it. And if they're brave and they taste it and they like it, they don't know it's weird. And they just eat it. And then now they'll tell their kids, yeah, it's sauerkraut, you can eat that. And so to us, to make a huge difference, kids are a really important thing. We try to, everywhere we go, we try to make sure there's some kind of kids thing that we do to sort of infect them with this cool thing.
Oh, that's huge too, because the demonstrations and getting their hands in it, creating that memorable experience, that works with adults, but with kids, that's highly impressionable. That's awesome. What do you hope that everyone else is going to walk away with after watching your presentations? What's your main goal there?
So fermented foods are basically processing your food with microbes. Mm-hmm. And for the last 150 years, we've been told that microbes are not a good thing. Antibacterial is what we do, and for good reason. However, now we're realizing, oh, wait a minute, some microbes are good. In fact, there are a lot that kind of keep us going. And so I think that people come with fascination, curiosity, they're feeling bad, they want to feel better, but they also come with a head full of fear about these foods. They don't understand them. And so walking away, understanding them, and feeling safe enough to go home and try it, I think is it. Because honestly, these foods, the sauerkraut, you leave it on your counter for a few days or a few weeks, and then you stick your fork in it, right? And everybody's been told you don't do that, right? or some of these ferments in the new book, you're growing fungus. Mm-hmm. And so you're working in these temperature zones that we've been completely told will make food spoil. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big part of actually when we're live with people, you'd be surprised how many people are raising their hand because they're afraid of the food. And so the big takeaway is it's easy, you've got this, and it's not scary. And it's safe.
Yeah. It's really funny about American culture and how you're slowly seeing this change, and I think it is because it's in the news all the time about the gut biome and the connection to mental health and everything else. I mean, it's amazing all the things that are tied back to gut health. And just thinking of American culture, me growing up, that was the same thing. You won't like that, especially when it came to sauerkraut and things of that sort. And it was always one of these things where we were always pushed away from that, and nobody was doing it on their own that I knew of. That was actually fermenting foods themselves. My wife was born in Ukraine, and they did a lot of that. So when we started hanging out together, she was showing me all these things she was doing. It was different, but at the same time, I'm adventurous, so I was willing to go with it.
And she was probably cute.
Oh, yeah, of course. So it's really interesting how things are changing. You guys are helping to change the world here. It's really cool. If someone is thinking of going to, let's say, the Mother Earth News Fair, let's say the one in Albany, Oregon, or any of the ones that they're putting on all over, what's the main thing you would say to encourage them to come out?
Well, the neat thing about the fair is it's one place that they pull together a lot of similar, if you're into homesteading or self-reliance or alternative energy or it's all there, and you can go at your own pace. There's usually maybe 5 stages going at every time, so you can plan out. It's very kid-friendly, so you can take the family and you learn everything from tractors to microbes and everything in between. There's lots of animals, and so it's kind of got that country fair feel to it too. But at the same time, if you really have projects or there's something you're trying to figure out, you can go and ask someone who is in that line and can answer your questions, face to face. And I see that all the time with people having really in-depth conversations about starting a farm or gardening or going into business doing one thing or another. And I think that's really neat that there's a place with like-minded people and lots of vendors that kind of focused around that.
Mm-hmm. It's really, if you've seen the magazine, it's kind of like the magazine come to life.
Yeah.
And, the speakers are very accessible and vendors, and so there is just a lot of information sharing.
Yeah, a huge bookstore, so you really can see somebody speak, go look at their book, go ask them questions, look through the book before you ever make that decision to buy the book. So it's kind of nice that way too.
If you were to describe like the ideal person, the person that maybe you'll have a long-term relationship with or what have you, that you're meeting in something like this, who is that person? Who's the ideal person that when they come in contact with you, they're like, wow, this is a piece I've been missing and I can't wait to learn more, and that just the people that just really eat it up?
Maybe we could do a couple, because there are demographics. 20-somethings are really, as a demographic, they're kind of rebelling against being told what to eat.
Yeah.
I think they and that whole millennial group is really rebelling against that thing that was really loved in the 50s. Like, my burger is always going to taste the same at this place. I think we're getting away from that now.
Yeah.
And that generation is really leading the charge.
And there's so much more information out there. So, when somebody tells them, you don't, that's harmful, people look it up in the phone they have in their pocket. And so it's a time now where society can make their own decisions about things. And so when we're someplace, it's funny because it's those younger people that just think this is cool and they want to do it for themselves. They have a really do-it-themselves ethic and flavors. And then surprisingly, it's an older population too. We have people now in our classes that are in their 50s, 60s, 70s who are very traditional, what we consider to be traditional in terms of
just conventional lifestyles.
Yeah, and for some reason they're working on their health. And they've come to this from whatever avenue, whether it's diabetes or osteoporosis or some lifestyle thing, and they found fermented foods and they want to make it themselves. They're eating enough of it that they want to do it themselves. And they're the ones that I think email us when they make the first one and show us pictures. Our email, we get a lot of attachments, and the good and the ugly. So we see successes and failures all over the world.
Actually, mostly see failures, people.
Sometimes we'll see what it is. They'll say, "Look at my beautiful thing, it worked." It's like, "Oh, that's a pretty one." We get a lot of old pictures.
Yeah.
Because people just want to know, is this okay to eat still? And so we do a lot of that, a lot of outreach about that. But those are the kind of people that once they've had a success, they get excited, they start combining flavors. They're just proud that they're doing it, and they want to share it with people. And so they become friends.
So we have a lot of business owners and executives that listen to this podcast because we look at the self-reliance field from the business point of view, not just what you're providing people, but specifically you and the fact that you're looking to kind of run things to become more self-reliant. I mean, that's your whole story. Do you think it would be worthwhile for them to do something similar? Would you encourage other people to write books and speak in the same way that you guys are doing?
Well, so our path was a product company, and then, like you said, we sell information now. It's a very crowded world. As you know, you're one of a few podcasts, right? I mean, people have limited amount of time, so I think just in the information economy as well, you need to have a clear voice, something that's strong and differentiated from the others. And the other thing is you just have to keep building upon it. So if we had stopped with fermented vegetables, we would be one of many sauerkraut books now. Out there. But we kept learning, and so that's the other advice: is even if you have a niche, whatever it is, you need to continue building upon that with your own experiences or others or new information and data to stay up on that and be willing to pivot. We thought we were a product company. Now we're books and classes. Don't know what will be in the future, but whatever needs are there, you've got to keep your eyes open about, what's not being filled, right? Yeah. And books are like that too. No one's really written about that. So we didn't grow up making miso or tempeh or natto. It's not like Kirsten's Korean and I'm Japanese, and she said, let's just do these flavors that we grew up with because these Americans don't eat it too much. I grew up in the Midwest, casserole. Yeah. So you have to be willing, I think, too, that when you see an opportunity to be able to invest your time and expertise to really learn that deeply and then write from that deep knowledge. But it's also very rewarding. I mean,
it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hustle we're making it and it's fun. And I think that's the best part. We're doing what we want to be doing, and we're doing it together, which, the product company was our first go at that, because before that we had a pretty traditional go. Christopher had the outside job and we had the kids. But, we're also, we're traveling, we live where we want to live. So I don't know that we really need any more. A little more, maybe good.
Oh, income. Always.
Yeah.
Won't turn it down if it shows up, right?
No, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, and I've already said it once, but book writing isn't a path to wealth and riches. It isn't. But it is a path to credibility and opportunities that can get your message out there if you have a passion. And so that part's
Oh, well said. Great advice. How did you end up becoming a speaker at the Mother Earth News Fair? Was that through your books? Did Story set that up for you, or did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you? How'd that work?
Yeah, the first fair was through Story. They set it up. And I think, the first go-round, the first set of fairs that I did was all through Story. And we have a good relationship now with Mother Earth News Fair. And we both do, freelance articles and things like that.
Oh, okay.
With Mother Earth News Fair, they're launching a new Fermentation magazine just coming out in September. So we've been kind of helping with that.
I bet.
Yeah. And then otherwise, it's really like any other field. It's like who you know, and we all try to connect each other. And, this friend says, hey, we know these guys doing a fermentation festival here. Why don't I, do an email introduction? And, we do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's, the fermentation community is a very welcoming community, but I think, like any business, it's the same thing. It's just getting connections and trying to get yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And you guys have been traveling a lot because you've been hitting all the different fairs and so forth. So what are some logistical tips that you would have for other people that are doing speaking and a lot of traveling and that sort?
Well, if you have to travel with Ferments, good luck. You're going to always be checking your bag.
Yeah.
You will always get a love letter from TSA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, traveling with knives and blocks of mold pretty much gets you on there.
Jars of stinky things that are getting warm in your bag and starting to waft out hot sauce smells.
Jeez.
So we both teach and lead workshops, and I think in all those cases, my biggest thing is manage your energy, because when you're, some of those days we teach for 6 hours, a few hundred people, and you're really drained at the end. Just staying on top of a class full of 100 people with knives is, that's a lot of mental energy just to make sure no one whacks somebody with a knife.
Yeah.
Everybody's got fingers at the end of the time, and there's no blood, and everybody's happy. So just taking care of yourself on the road, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, trying to eat right. It's tough for us because we'll end up in really difficult places that just are chain places to eat. And so just taking care of yourself when you're on the road, because it can seem very romantic and you want to just go experience everything, and then you just come home completely drained. You're shot for a few days, and if you're on the road all the time, you don't have those recovery times. So I think that's a big one on the speaking side. Is the other one is just, it's a business too, and so you can get caught up speaking and not take care of where is this going to lead next, making the connections, trying to plan out. Like Kirsten said, you're always hustling, so remembering that you are the speaker, but you're also the CEO, and you're also the marketer, and you're all those things. And so depending on...
You're also the contact person. Sometimes, from my personality, it's hard to say, actually, we do need paid for this. And I think that's probably something that writers and speakers in this day and age really, really suffer with, because so many magazines, or blog posts, it's like they're happy to get free content, and they'll expose you to so many people. And I think when all this online self-publishing thing started, a lot of writers in a way shot themselves and the whole writing industry in the foot, in that people expect free content, and it still takes work to make it. It still takes time to take pictures and develop the recipes or whatever your content is. You've invested in it, and yes, you do have to give some of it away. That's part of it, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying at some point, if you want to make it
a career, you have to start valuing yourself and being able to say, yes, I'll do this, but here's what I require, whatever that is. You know, if it's $50 or if it's, $2,000, you have to. And that's a hard move to make. It's hard. It's really hard to take that leap to say, I would love to come do this, but let's talk about how to make that happen. That's good for everybody.
Absolutely. It's funny, we spoke with Gary Collins with The Simple Life earlier today. He was mentioning the same thing about having to deal with the fact that we've created kind of an entitlement society in a sense, and people kind of all have their hand out and they're expecting everything for free. And it's eventually you've got to put a price on things, because if it's actually going to be valuable, because everyone needs to eat. That's a great advice. Something definitely, if you're new to the information business, it's something you definitely need to keep in mind. If you aren't new, you already know it, but you have to keep on top of that for sure. I really enjoyed my time here with you guys. What could a listener do who'd want to find out more, want to read your books, everything else, and all the classes that you provide? Where could they go?
Our website has got our calendar for classes and whatnot. It's also got the free e-course, so it's ferment.works. That's probably the best place. I think we're most active on Instagram as far as just sort of that what's going on kind of place. And that's also at ferment.works.
There's
Facebook. And the books are available anywhere that you buy books. Your little mom and pop brick and mortar store to big online sellers. They're there.
Fabulous. Hey, thanks so much for being on the Off the Grid Biz podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I really enjoyed sitting down with Kirsten and Christopher. I wanted to point out just a few things from this conversation. First, the fact that they use an initial free course. This is common throughout internet marketing, but not as common within the realm of self-reliance businesses. And it's something that I think is quite useful. They mentioned they have thousands of people who have signed up for this course. And it's called 5 Ferments in 7 Days. It's an e-course. You can find it on their website, ferment.works. So why is something like that so useful? It's useful because it starts the conversation. It gives someone something quick, valuable, and in exchange for their email address so that you can continue communicating with them from that point on. And today, the world is so distracting. Any chance you get to be in front of the same person more than once is a good thing for your business. Something you should keep in mind is any form of lead generation like this, a way that you can have a lead that you can go back to, that you can communicate on a regular basis with, that is very valuable, and it's way overlooked by most people in the self-reliance field. I love their story of starting and stopping, having these tough days at the farmer's market, getting their product out there, going through all of the hassle, realizing finally when they're at the peak, when they've got this great deal with Whole Foods, that this is going to get even harder, with the physical products, and them looking themselves in the mirror and saying, what are we doing? Where do we really want to go with our business? And making the courageous decision to say, no, we're going to pull back and go in a different direction. And how did they choose that direction? They chose it by listening to their audience. Their audience wanted to find out how to do it themselves. It's all because of the fact that, as he said, they're bad drug dealers. They were giving it away. They were giving away the information straight off the bat, allowing people to make their own. But through doing that, they found out that many people were more interested in doing it themselves than in purchasing the final product. And the dirty little secret is that an information business is a lot less backbreaking if it's done correctly. And this is the thing that they point back to over and over again. They're doing what they love to do. Yes, it's a little tiring if you're traveling, if you're on the road and promoting a book, putting on presentations. These are all things that you have to weigh along with it. But overall, information is delivering a book in the mail. It's sending information online. It's having online courses like they're talking about having more of. The best thing about information, it can be added to any current running business. Even if you have physical products that you're already getting out to people, you can tack on an information business like we've heard other people do, like Gary Collins. You can go and listen to our conversation with him, and that would give you more of an idea of how he's been able to do it. I think it's great that they've been able to work as a couple. They can deal with all of the stress that comes along with that because they have two very different personalities, but at the same time, they found a way to work around it. Part of the struggle of having an information business is constantly reminding people who you are and what you do. And that's what Kirsten said, and that's dead on. That's a huge piece of what they're all about right now, and it's important that they have their eye on that. It's also important that they have a focus on developing passive income, because they don't want to run around forever. They don't want to have to keep this thing going on its own. They have to have some pieces of their business that run on their own, that allow people to access it without them having to hold people's hands every step of the way. That's what automation is all about. That's what outsourcing is all about. And I'm glad to see that they have their focus in that direction, because I think they're going to get the best results with that in the long run. And finally, they mentioned that free information problem that Gary Collins had also mentioned. And this is something that the information marketer has to think about. What can I afford to put out there for free? Of the free stuff that I am putting out there, how much of it is encouraging people to take the next step? We can go on, and we will definitely be touching about that idea in the future. We will no doubt be talking again with Christopher and Kirsten because they live so nearby me. I can't wait to be able to dig in a little deeper into their concepts of business and the adventures they've been having on the road. Join us again on the next Off the Grid Biz podcast, brought to you by the team at brianjpombo.com, helping successful but overworked entrepreneurs transform their companies into dream assets. That's brianjpombo.com. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the Off the Grid Biz podcast, go to offthegridbiz.com/contact. Those who appear on the show do not necessarily endorse my beliefs, suggestions, or advice, or any of the services provided by our sponsor. Our theme music is Cold Sun by Dell. Our executive producer and head researcher is Sean E. Douglas. I'm Brian Pombo, and until next time, I wish you peace, freedom, and success.